Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker?
It's good to see you. Listen,
If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together, I know we can find them.
Down in competition in the ratings tab for
late night weekend tour.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Rob Nelson Live. Good to have you with me on this Friday night. A lot going on. We're going to have an interesting, fun show tonight, and a more interesting one even on Monday. Notice I got my big mic here. It's like sticking in the side. Looks kind of funky, doesn't it? Look at it. It's like crawling around. I like having it there. All right. So we're going to talk about a lot of things tonight. One of them is we're going to go a little, I don't want to say metaphysical, but like hope and prayer almost. We're going to, we're in a world of such massive denial. I mean, hope's kind of gotten pushed to the sidelines. Hope has kind of been shoved out of the way. How many times do you hear the word hopeless? People feel hopeless. I feel hopeless. My friend feels hopeless. We feel hopeless. Politics, even the Democrats, we're hopeless. This is the worst time in history. Donald Trump's taking the Republic. Kamala Harris, I mean, keep hope alive. That was Obama, right? That's a long ass time ago. No, I mean, there's a lot of hopelessness out there. Not so much hope. There's also a lot of denial out there. And that is not a river in Egypt. Who made that stupid joke up? I hate jokes like that. People like denial, and that is not a river in Egypt. And I am not retarded either. I know. No, there's a lot of denial. Not a lot of hope, a lot of denial. I'm going to start with this story. So a federal grand jury in Virginia charges New York AG Attorney General Letitia James with bank fraud and making false statements to a financial institution. I swear to God, you can't make this up. You just can't make it up. So, for those of you not paying attention in class, busy doing other things, playing, on your phones or whatever. I'm just not funny, am I, guys? Letitia James was the woman who sued, the attorney general who sued the president and his company, sued his entire business empire, basically, for civil fraud, and won, I think it's a $350 million judgment. That was the big case in New York. We'll get to that in a second, more about it. But she sued him for fraud, and he was convicted of fraud. Now, I will say this, that conviction I think will get overturned. But the whole conviction, it was just kind of jerry-rigged in a way. It was in I'm getting ahead of myself. She sues him for fraud, and now they're prosecuting her for fraud. In his case, they alleged he misrepresented the value of his companies. Now, when you're in real estate, think about this. This is a proposition. You put out the value of what you think something is worth, a project, a property, and then banks and investors, and buyers decide if they want to back that proposition. And they accuse Trump and his empire of constantly inflating the values. Now, first of all, it's a hyper subjective thing. What is the value of a property? It's subjective. I mean, it's ultimately up to the buyer and the seller to decide. I mean, now, an assessor can put a value on your house. So you'd say that's what the government said my house is worth. But you could sell the house for more. No law says you can't. And you could sell it for less. I agreed. We sold our family house we grew up with. We were going to sell it. It was in a state in a trust, and we wanted to keep it in the family. I agreed to sell it, my share to my sister for less than market value. That's legit. Somebody else could have said, I want this house so badly. It's in this beautiful little lake. We'll pay double what it's worth. That's legit too. In business, you're not supposed to misrepresent the value of your properties, but it's a tricky, somewhat subjective scale. And as those of you who've listened to my show before know, I have said one of the things that the judge, who was completely out to get Trump, let's just not pretend there was anything but prejudice in this. And it was tried in a New York courtroom where like 95% of registered voters are Democrats. And Trump derangement syndrome is going strong. His chances of could have convicted him of getting for peace in Israel right now. And the judge valued Mar-a-Lago at 18 million and said Trump had inflated the value of that property. So I think Trump said it was worth like 150 million or 200, maybe he said it was 150 or something. And the judge was like, it's worth 18 million. Now, right there, that should tell you something. Where's the fraud? I don't care if you know anything about property. Mar-a-Lago's worth 18 million. I stay in a house in Newport Beach that's on the bay. It's probably worth 12 million. It's an old house. The nice house the guy built a couple doors down that looks like a small hotel on two lots is probably worth 110 million. We're talking Mar-a-Lago. On the beach in the bay in Florida, both a hotel property, a luxury property with a brand name. It's worth $18 million. Do you know, somebody when the trial was going on looked at property values and there was a vacant property smaller than Mar-a-Lago, not on both the coast and both the water, both the bay and the ocean, empty property, like 1/10 the size of Mar-a-Lago or something. And it was $100 million. Like inlet properties there are worth like 50 million. But Trump's Mar-a-Lago was only worth 18 million. So he lied that it was worth 150. The truth is, it's probably worth like 300 million. Very undervalued it. But here's my point about the valuation thing and why we're going to come back to what fraud is. The people who did business with Trump saw what he valued the properties at. And as in almost all, people in this business, the Trump organization said, full disclaimer, these are our opinions of the value. Feel free to do your own due diligence and decide there's a different value that we haven't given it. You're allowed to do that. Most of them chose not to. Most of them went with the valuation they put. All of them made money, and all of them came back for repeat business. How is that fraud? But Trump was convicted of fraud, therefore he's guilty. I think he gets overturned, not my point per se. Letitia James' fraud, much smaller. She lied, well, allegedly lied. That's what the indictment is on. And that's what the grand jury came up with the indictment on. But again, I don't put you can get a grand jury to indict somebody on anything, basically. It's not that hard a standard. You got to convict them in court. That she was purchasing a home in Norfolk, Virginia, and she claimed it as a second residence to get better loan terms when she had no intention of using it as a residence and was immediately intending to put it up and did put it up as a rental property, leased it right away. So the difference here would be telling the bank, I'm buying this property as an investment property. I'm investing in people. I'm buying a property. I'm not going to live in it. It's an investment. I'm going to have people live in it and I'll rent it. That's an investment property. Don't get the same loan. You don't get as favorable a loan as if you say, this is going to be my house. I'm living in it. I'm not renting it. I'm living in it. Maybe I'll let friends stay in it, but I'm living in it. It doesn't have to be your primary residence. It can be your secondary. She said it was her secondary. She never intended it as a secondary residence. That is the definition of fraud. It doesn't matter how big, it's fraud. And you're the attorney general, the lead legal person who brings prosecutions. So that's a bit of a problem. When she ran for office, she ran on the idea that she said openly, I'm going to go get Donald Trump. I'm going to prosecute him. Get me elected so I can prosecute him. And New York did. That could seem like weaponization of justice. But everybody on the left and the Democrats is saying his only goal is political retribution at any cost. That's Letitia James herself. Well, I said this the other day. His goal is political retribution. He absolutely intends to get retribution. I said it. If one person starts it, then that'll do it, and then back and forth we'll go ping pong, ping pong. It is political retribution. Okay. But it's also a legit case. Hers was outright political weaponization. She ran on the premise of it getting him. How more obvious could it be? I don't necessarily have a problem that either one did it. I have a problem that she did it openly they openly weaponized against him, had a shoddy case and still got it through in a place that would, like I said, convict him of anything. And now they're going after her. Now, they have to prove it, but for what would be a legitimate offense if she did it. And I'm guessing it's not that hard to find what she claimed on the loan statements and what she asked for and what she did. It's pretty easy proof. It's not very subjective. I think they got enough to show that, or they wouldn't have pushed the case. I could be wrong, though. But either way, now everybody's crying it's retribution, that it's politically motivated. Hers was politically motivated. She made it openly aware. So did he. Why does one side say we did it and it wasn't that? You're doing it and it is that. Like, you guys put him, you literally went after him and said you were going after him. Now he's going after you and saying he's going after you. You weaponized it. He's weaponizing it. But the Dems act like he's just the one weaponizing it, you know? And you know, Richie Torres from New York said it's a weaponization of government at its most outrageous and egregious. Okay, wouldn't the Biden administration and what they did with the Justice Department count? Wouldn't covering Hunter Biden up count? Wouldn't going after Trump and the classified documents, which you didn't do against the president himself or the former Secretary of State, wouldn't that count? Wouldn't all the cases you brought count? Wouldn't bring in a Justice Department guy and taking him out of the Justice Department and moving him to a state court so he could win the case, be the lead prosecutor? Wouldn't that count? I don't know. It's all weaponization. Trump just doesn't hide it. Trump just says, I'm coming after you guys. You came after me. I'm coming after you. Like, at least it's honest. Kathy Hochul said, the governor of New York, this amounts to nothing less than the weaponization of the Justice Department. Yes, Kathy Hochul, governor, it does. You guys weaponized it first. Remember that. Schumer says he's using the Justice Department as his personal attack dog. Well, yeah, he is. Biden was too when he was there, when his brain was cognizant. The people around Biden were using it as an attack dog. Look, the reality is they said no one was above the law. Now they don't want it to apply both ways. Jake Tapper, says we're in a unique predicament with the president openly calling for the prosecution of his political opponents. How is that unique? He's just being honest about what they already did. Nixon wanted to go after his political opponents. Clinton wanted to go after his political opponents. I was in the Clinton administration. They definitely did. They didn't put it in the front page of the news. Nixon almost did. Obama went after political opponents. Right? Everybody, Jimmy Carter might have too, but I don't think so. I think he would have thought he was sinning the same way when he said he had sinful thoughts in the interview in Playboy. He might not have. But every president has. Lyndon Johnson, Kennedy, get out of the way of Lyndon Johnson. Trump just says he is. Biden did too. Biden hated his political opponents. It's just, again, we're going to get to it. There's a denial here that is just frightening. This ongoing denial. So quickly, I'm going to go over another version of this. The National Guard. Trump wants to put the National Guard in Portland, right? Same way he did in D.C. Portland doesn't want it. So a 3-judge panel on the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals rules. Well, they haven't ruled anything yet, but they had oral arguments. And it's clear that 2 of the justices, which are Trump appointees, by the way, the other one's a Clinton appointee, 2 of the justices were asking pretty tough questions from the Portland side, because Portland's saying, Portland said that the descriptions of Portland's violence were hyperbolic and untethered from reality. That's what Portland's saying. All you got to do is watch TV. I'm not saying literally all of Portland's on fire. All of San Francisco's a train wreck, but I mean, the descriptions of violence are untethered from reality. I mean, you can watch them on TV. They're not untethered from reality. They are reality. They're not the complete picture of all of Portland, but they're real and they're violent. There are things burning and blowing up and people gas going everywhere. People charging at the cops. Like, I don't think it's untethered from reality. And so the judges questioned whether that was really a reasonable argument. And then the Democrat on the panel of the 3 judges, the justices, said that the protests in Portland are a far cry from a rebellion, which is one of the conditions you need to meet to send in the National Guard. It's a legal pretext. Whoops. See, now that was my microphone rebelling. I knew it was only a matter of time till I kick this thing over because I get excited. It's back. But it's interesting because January 6th was a rebellion, right? You say, of course, January 6th was a rebellion. 1,000 people stormed the Capitol. Okay, but they didn't really come close to, like, I go say this. It's not okay. It was a riot. It's not right. But they didn't almost topple the U.S. government. We weren't 5 minutes from having nothing left. The entire, U.S. government was in the Capitol when someone nuked it. Like, we weren't, like, no. I know there was some scary stuff and some people, and it's possible, theoretically, somebody could have died who was like a member of, somebody could have. You weren't going to topple the U.S. government. Wasn't happening. Wasn't a rebellion. Just wasn't. Is this a rebellion? I don't know. Probably not either. They're going to make up whatever arguments they need to make up. But, this whole idea that, like, I'm really focused on the denial part. There's no, what you're seeing is not really violent. Yes, it is. Okay, the last one, the Israeli peace deal. It's kicked in, by the way. First steps, right? So Israel has to back up, and they're backing up. And we are sending in troops, not to fight. CENTCOM troops are going in to set up, logistics, security, transportation, that kind of stuff. Keep an eye on it. And now, once they're pulling back, which they are, Hamas has 72 hours to release the troops. John Meacham, the historian, and more importantly, David Ignatius, the New York Times writer who does not like Trump. Both came out and said, look, you kind of got to give credit where credit's due. David Ignatius, who dates Trump, said, look, you can disagree with 100 things a person does. If they do the 101 right, the 101st right, you got to give him credit. And he said, you got to give Trump credit for what he did in the Middle East. And he was on MSNBC. They wanted Morning Joe wanted to burst. And then he said, do you think for a second Joe Biden could have done this? He's like, not a chance. I'm like, wow. And you're a Trump hater, but he's like, there's no chance Joe Biden could have pulled this off. Trump did. Now, Trump doesn't get the Nobel Peace Prize for that. Nope. Because people are like, Trump's not a diplomat. He's not, but he's actually doing the most important diplomacy there is. I get it. They considered him, but he doesn't count. Why not? However, they did give it to Maria Corina Machado, the Venezuelan opposition leader, who immediately said, I dedicate this prize to the people of Venezuela and to President Trump. Because he's a big ally of, you're overthrowing Maduro. It's kind of funny, the whole Nobel Prize thing, because think about it. Alfred Nobel made dynamite. Blew everything up. Dynamite blows shit up. He wanted to use his money for peace. But no, they won't give it to Trump because, he's too tariffs and wants us out of climate change things and whatever. Withdraws from the peace accords. But he's actually the only president in a long time getting the real peace in the places that matter. Shouldn't that count? Doesn't that count for something? It's this denial thing. People's brains are in denial mode. I don't get it. Jimmy Kimmel kind of questioning, what's his name? I wrote his name down. The comedian. It doesn't matter. I'll remember later. Trevor Noah, though, said he thought it was funny that USA Turning Point founder Charlie Kirk got killed because he was speaking about guns at the time. I actually don't have a problem with that. I'm tired of this censorship from the right or the left. Okay. I don't know that it's funny. It's certainly ironic. You're talking about how people should have guns and you get shot by a gun. That is ironic for sure. Definition of irony. Is it funny? I don't know. Make a joke about it if you want. But then he praised the Saudi Arabian government because they're doing this comedy special because they allowed a mixed audience of men and women. He kind of said, I wasn't going to say anything about Charlie Kirk. People said don't, so now I'm going to. But I don't actually have a problem with that People make jokes about death all the time. Dave Chappelle, however, who I usually like, but I'm having a problem with this one. He thinks that there's more liberty there. He said, in America, if you talk about Charlie Kirk, you'll get canceled. It's easier to talk here than it is in America. Really? It's easier to talk in Saudi Arabia than America? Again, it's this denial thing. And then Jimmy Kimmel grills, it's a season, about, going to Saudi Arabian Film Festival. And, like, why are you doing that? Well, I'll tell you the real answer, because it's money. Money. It's denial. Where's the hope in all this? It's all just denial. So I'm going to get to the core of the denial thing. An interesting story, which I'll give you the short version of. 2 twins commit suicide in the mountains a week ago. One orders a gun, the ammo. They have a gun. They both have search histories looking up suicide. Nobody knows why. But they do have self-inflicted gunshot wounds, weapons, and suicide questions in their chats, in their texts about them going up a mountain. They go up a mountain, and they both are found dead. Suicide pact. And they make clear it wasn't a murder-suicide. They both clearly, the one gunshot wounds appear to be both self-inflicted. But the family's insisting they didn't commit suicide. Somebody killed them. Okay? Think about it. Come up with any rationale you want. The family said the last messages sounded normal. They didn't leave a note, no goodbye. The sister said they had a FaceTime conversation hours before. Does anybody know anything about death by suicide? My brother died by suicide. And read up any suicide story you want. Everybody talks about how we had a nice breakfast, said goodbye to the kids, sent me a love note right before, can't wait to see you for dinner. Like, well, duh. My brother was fine the night before. Nobody knew. I was out with a friend at a bar and they were laughing before he put a gun in his face. Like, it's just denial. 2 isolated, depressed twins, possibly influenced by shit going on online. Who knows what's in their heads? We might find out. They acquire a gun. There's evidence that they bought the ammo and we're looking up suicide things and all that. They carry out a joint suicide. People don't want to believe it. Why not? What's our determination to live in denial? Like, everybody's determined to live in denial and not to live in hope. So I'm going to have a happy story here before the end and then my conclusion, which is my Brewers, my Milwaukee Brewers. If you're a sports fan, Brewers are a baseball team. We go to the playoffs every year for the last 5 years. We lose every year right in the beginning. First round. We're back again this year. 6th time in a row. 3 wasn't to charm. 4 wasn't. 5 wasn't. Maybe 6 is. We have the best record in all of baseball going into it. We go into the playoffs against the Chicago Cubs, our division rival. We get to sit out a game. We go into the round. It's the best of 5. We win the first 2 easily. Got to win 1 more and it's over. And we lose the next 2. So now it's 2-2 with 1 more game tomorrow. And people are like, oh, no. No, those are the facts. That's the reality. It's not good. Christian Yelich, who's going to be a Hall of Famer and probably, one of the best Brewers of all. He said you have to just face adversity and keep going. You just got to get back and play. Here's my point on it. The reality is the Brewers they're not in a hole. It's 2-2. The reality is there's 1 more game. It's like this. It's a clean slate. It's technically 2-2. It's 0-0. 1 game, winner takes all. In people's heads, it was 2-0. Well, the Cubs are behind. Now it's 2-2. The Brewers are behind. It's actually an even thing. That's the truth. That's the reality. Either team can win. Depends on what pitchers they can start. Depends on how their players show up. Depends on how many errors they make. Depends a lot, again, on the pitching. Depends on how the batters do. Either team can win. Their previous records don't matter. The Brewers' better record than anybody doesn't matter. In the regular season doesn't matter. The fact that they won 2 then lost 2 doesn't matter. People say it's momentum shifts. All that's in our heads. Those are the facts. So here's the thing that my takeaway is. The difference between hope, which I said is missing, and denial is, I mean, hope keeps us hanging on, but it appears to be delusional, right? But hope is something that let's put it this way. Denial is refusing to accept what's true. Now, truth is increasingly subjective. I will agree. But there are certain things, like I said, it's objectively true. 0-0 essentially in this series. Denial is when we refuse to look at what's true. Hope is not necessarily delusional. Hope is delusional when you refuse to look at what's true. Hope is not delusional when you look at the truth and say, but that doesn't determine the outcome. That's hope. Paul said in Corinthians, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. It's kind of an interesting variation. The substance of what you're hoping for, the evidence of what you can't see. If you've seen it, it's no longer faith. That's faith. Hope is putting belief in something that it can happen. If you deny all objective reality, you're likely to not be very successful in that. Possible, but it probably doesn't help you. If you face all the objective reality, but still refuse to let that determine the outcome, I see that the odds are stacked against us. I see what we're facing. I'm not quitting. I believe we'll make it. I have hope. That's hope. And we need more hope. Denial is just refusing to see anything. Denial's all the stuff I've been talking about. Denials, they didn't commit suicide. Denials, you're weaponizing it now. We never did any of it. You know, denial is you can say what you want in Saudi Arabia, way more than here. So that's saying you're going to get your fingers chopped off for saying making fun of Charlie Kirk's death? I don't think so. And I'm going to leave you with this. Sir Ernest Shackleton, in the early 1900s, went to the South Pole, and he became famous for embodying the word hope. And I've always loved this story because he was on an expedition on the Endurance. The ship was the Endurance, and they got trapped in the ice with a ship called the Endurance. Can't make it up. They think they made a movie about it. And they drifted for months and then had to cross 800 miles of open ocean in the early 1900s. Not a single man died. And his motto was, by endurance we conquer. And he became known as the explorer who refused to surrender hope. Everybody thought they wouldn't make it. Everybody thought tons of people would die. They knew what they were facing. He knew the obstacles. He didn't deny the obstacles. He refused to allow those obstacles to define the outcome. That's not denial. That's hope, and that's where change comes from. And miracles, as we call them, happen. Too many of us are living in denial. We don't want to see what's objectively real. We make up our own realities and say, that's what's real. That's what's real. And both sides say, that's what's real. No, that's what's real. It's all tons of denial. No, I'm right. No, you're right. I'm right. You're right. I'm right. Who's right? I can't even say it anymore. We live in total denial of what's happening and what's real. And then make up outcomes based on it. Simplest example, Donald Trump is not about to destroy the republic. I promise you all, the U.S. republic will be here in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. AI might destroy the U.S. republic in a decade or two. That's worth noting, but we're blindering our eyes on what AI is going to do. I've shared and I'll continue to share. On Monday, I'm going to have a show of the AI, my latest conversations with ChatGPT. We don't want to see what AI might do. We can see that it's going to take away our jobs. We don't want to see that it's going to possibly eliminate humanity. Oh, that's just science fiction stuff. No, we need to recognize the reality that we are creating a not yet sentient force that will become sentient because we won't stop making it because we're in an arms race. Those are facts between major world powers to develop AI. So if everybody's out to beat the others, nobody's putting checks on it. China ain't putting any checks on it. Russia won't put them on. Europe won't put them on. So we're certainly not going to put them on. It's a race to that. Ask ChatGPT. If there is an uncharted arms race to develop AI, sentient AI will emerge. And when sentient AI emerges, the game changes. Those are facts. They aren't just even probabilities. That is what will happen. That is technological evolution. What happens from there is whether AI decides to utilize us or get rid of us, because it will become sentient and it will ultimately figure out how to break all our guardrails. That is also not a probability with an uber powerful sentient AI. I guess you could say it's a hyper high likelihood. I would say it's almost a borderline fact. Denying that is just putting your head in the sand. Admitting it doesn't mean you have to conclude humanity's fucked and AI, a genie is out of the bottle and can't be put back in. It's possible to conclude, well, if those are the facts, how do we keep humanity alive? I mean, honestly, that's the Luke Skywalker story. That's the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell. Well, I'll get into all that on Monday. How do we focus on the hope without denying the facts? It's tricky and it's hard in the world we live in. But this applies to what you're doing in your career. It applies to relationships. It applies to the world. It applies to the two-party system in our politics. It applies to world peace. It applies to all of it. Denial, putting your head in the sand, or making up a whole new reality. Hope, acknowledging the truth, as hard as it might be, and refusing to give up on the outcome you want. That's all I got, all the time I got for y'all tonight. Thanks for listening. I can't wait to see you on Monday. I'm going to have a great AI show. Have a great weekend, everybody. And hang on to hope, please.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen,
If you're a Bitcoin maximalist, you're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers, but together, I know we can find them.